time. One of the best coaches of all time. I mean, great team. I mean, obviously, their track record speaks for itself. They're phenomenal. They've been doing things for a long time at a very high level. So it's always exciting to get out there on the field and be able to play against a team of that caliber. And very much looking forward to the challenge. Looking forward to get back on the field myself.
So, Chris Canty, you think that Houston can pull off the upset in this game?
Yeah, I do, because the defense travels in the NFL. So when you look at the Houston Texans, personnel-wise, they could be one of the most talented defensive groups in the AFC. So I look at them.
If everyone's healthy.
If everyone's
healthy. And everyone's healthy right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody's healthy right now. So that's the thing that you have to look at. You saw they had an impact in that game in week 3 last season when you had the strip sack from Whitney Merciless. Jadeveon Clowney returned it for a touchdown. They're going to have that kind of impact again on the game. They got to limit the points from the Patriots, though. And with the skill position players that Tom Brady has, or lack thereof, I think it's a good chance that Houston Texans defense can neutralize the Patriots offense. Offensively, they can't have the mistakes. Deshaun Watson was right. They can't turn the football over. When they get in the red zone, they do have to capitalize. You got to score 7. You can't settle for 3, because you know eventually, if Tom Brady has enough chances, he's going to put up points on the board.
And that's what happened last year. The Texans had a lead late, even though Deshaun had a couple picks in that game. Deshaun turned the ball over a lot last year. He was just so dynamic elsewhere that he was able to overcome it. But the Texans had a lead late. They ended up not going for it on a 4th down. They obviously should have, and Brady drives New England down the field for the victory. How can the Pats avoid the upset, if that's the question? The first thing that they will do, and I am certain this is what Bill Belichick is game planning for, is take DeAndre Hopkins out of this football game.
You have to.
He is a special football player. He has put up all-pro caliber stats with a who's nobody of quarterbacks. I mean, with some of the worst collection of quarterbacks since he came in the league. We're talking Osweiler, Savage, Keenum, Yates, Mallett. I mean, it is.
You're right.
I mean, those are his guys. Now he got a 6-game respite with Deshaun Watson, and we saw and particularly Will Fuller excel. And Fuller's a deep threat, and Fuller with Watson last year had 7 touchdown catches, which seems incredible, but it's true. So Will Fuller was really good as well. But Nuke Hopkins is the guy you've got to. And I should correct that, by the way. Deshaun Watson in games Will Fuller played in had 7 touchdowns. But regardless, Will Fuller was an incredible part of that offense. But Nuke Hopkins is the guy that you absolutely have to take out of this football game. And then I expect we will come out of this game thinking the Pats front 7 is better than it is. Thinking, man, Adrian Claiborne, what an upgrade they got in the offseason. Talking about Malcolm Brown. Why? Because I don't know how the Texans block anybody. The Texans have last year, they had the worst offensive line in football, and this year I think it will be more of the same. That's why I can't pick the Texans to win this game. If you don't have a good offensive line and Lamar Miller is a mediocre running back at this point in his career, if you only do one thing really well, the Pats, I expect them to be able to take that one thing away from you.
I hear you on that with the offensive line, Nick. That's a valid concern. But if you were to pick a quarterback and a skill set from that position that could manage that weakness, that deficiency, it would be what Deshaun Watson brings to the table. And so he's going to have to be able to make some of those off-schedule plays, being able to convert those 3rd downs with his legs, being able to extend plays by breaking outside of the pocket, give those receivers time to uncover downfield, make those big plays in the passing game. Deshaun Watson has to be capable of pulling off some of that if they're going to win in Foxborough.
We go back and forth on how high people are on Deshaun Watson from only seeing limited action last year. It was explosive action. He played great at Clemson. But, I mean, how high are you on Deshaun Watson?
Well, you saw the control. You saw the test case last year. When Deshaun Watson was the starter for that team, they averaged over 30 points a game. When he wasn't, it was in the low teens. So, I mean, he's that big of a difference for that team.
But it was 6 games. There were a lot of picks. So, I mean, do you factor that in?
You have to factor that in. You do get concerned with the turnovers, but one thing that you don't want to stop is him being aggressive. Bill Parcells used to tell Phil Simms, if you don't go out here and throw 3 picks, you're not trying. So it's one of those situations, because you know what your offensive line is, your quarterback is going to have to mitigate some of that. He's going to have to take some chances. You just got to be smart about the situations where he does take said chances.
Listen, if Deshaun Watson is, for the rest of his career, who he was in that 6.5 games he played, he's the greatest quarterback of all time. So, he's going to regress. It is not will he regress. It is how much will he regress. Nobody can keep that level of play up. We've never seen it. I'm not being hyperbolic. Like, his passer rating in those games would be the best in NFL history. His touchdowns per game would be the best in NFL history. So he's going to regress somewhat. The question is it going to be a 15% regression, which would still be a Pro Bowl level player, or is it going to be a 35% Dak Prescott type of regression, where you go from lighting the world on fire rookie year to a middling quarterback? He doesn't have the help on the line and in the running game. And I also think a reason that I can't pick the Texans to upset the Pats is once the game starts, I don't know that there is going to be a bigger mismatch going on anywhere in the NFL this Sunday than the coaching mismatch between schematically Bill Belichick and schematically Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien, since the day he got to Houston, has not understood and has not fixed some of the most basic parts of coaching. They lost a game against the Pats last year they shouldn't have because of this. Then the next week they lost another game against Seattle that they shouldn't have because of this. Games Deshaun Watson was in where they just could not get the clock right, get the fourth down decisions right, get the end of half right, and Bill Belichick never messes any of that up. So that the Pats go into this game up 6-0 in my eyes. So, like, the Texans have to overcome even more than you would in a normal game.
The other mismatch, I would say, is trying to neutralize or stop the one guy that you know Tom Brady's going to throw the ball to, and that's Gronkowski. How did the Texans stop him?
Well, you're going to have to bracket him. You're going to have a linebacker underneath, and you're going to have somebody in the secondary over top. It's not going to be one person. It's not going to be the same two people the entire time that are double teaming Gronk, because the Patriots are going to move him around the formation. But you have to be aware of where number 87 is. But the way that you stop him is by hitting Tom Brady. And take it from me, I've been there, I've done that. That's what you have to do if you're going to stop the Patriots offense. And the Houston Texans defensive front, they have the guys that can consistently get after it. If J.J. Watt is healthy, Jadeveon Clowney, Whitney Merciless, those guys, they have to be a factor. They have to be the difference in terms of slowing this offense down.
No, it's a great point by Canny, and he has the history to speak to it. But just from looking at it from afar, when you look at the worst moments for Brady, who are they up against? Baltimore Ravens, getting after him, right? The Denver Broncos in a couple AFC playoff games, Von Miller and guys getting after him, knocking Brady down, which is so hard to do because he gets rid of the ball so quickly. It's one of the reasons why, given the lack of continuity and established players on the Pats O-line, that facing the Texans and the Jags, because that's their schedule to start the season, that's not ideal. To answer your question, though, quickly about Gronk, the Texans brought in Tyrann Mathieu. They also transitioned a big corner, Kareem Jackson, to safety. So I think you will see a combination of each of those guys taking turns, trying to help out or to focus on Gronkowski. I still think Gronk's going to have a monster football
Tyrann
game.
Mathieu, I don't like that matchup.
Just too big because he's about a foot shorter?
I don't like that matchup.
All right, we got to take a break. Coming up, is it already time for the Falcons to panic about the red zone offense? That's next on First Things First. How many games have they played?